Hey, well, Broken World Entertainment, and this is going to be the review of The Flash. Yes, the Ezra Miller Flash, with not one but two Batmans in it. I will do a non-spoiler and then we'll get into some spoilers. So, the movie is, as you've seen from the trailers, I'm sure, Barry Allen going back in time to save his mother. It's basically the Flashpoint story. If anyone doesn't know the Flashpoint story, Flashpoint was Barry Allen travelled back in time to stop his mother being killed, and in doing so, he changed the universe basically, where Batman was in fact the father, not Bruce. What's the father name? George, isn't it? George Wayne. And as the story behind that was that rather than the parents being killed in the alleyway, it's Bruce who's killed, and the father obviously became Batman while the mother became the Joker. She had a mental breakdown. They don't go with that storyline in this. As a matter of fact, they don't go with a lot of the storyline from Flashpoint, except Barry going back to try and stop his mother from being killed and getting his father out of prison. As we also see in the trailer, Zod shows up and he feels the only way to stop that is they're going to need Clark, aka Superman, Kal-El. And the only person they think could help them find that is Bruce Wayne. And they go, and it's not Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne, it's Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, who was no longer Batman. And of course they go and they don't find Kal-El, they find Supergirl, Kara. And the movie basically trottles along. He loses his powers for half the movie, while other Barry has them. Yes, there's two Barry Allens in this. There's a whole bunch of cameos that pretty much were all spoiled well before the movie even came out, and they are garbage, and they're all CGI as well. There is a mid-credit scene. I didn't watch it because I know what it is, and everyone says it's not even worth your time waiting for. And we get Ben Affleck's supposedly his last hurrah as Batman, which is the very beginning of the movie. He's great. There's another surprise at the beginning. I won't say. You probably know what's out there, but I won't say it. We'll keep that for the spoilers. But he said he's in the movie for about 5 minutes, and that's pretty accurate. He's in it for about 5 minutes. Yeah, and it's only at the beginning. So Barry goes back, changes things, and realizes he has to put things back, but he still has a bit of selfishness to him, which is something we'll get into in the spoilers as well, that he does, which was a very peculiar choice. Is the movie worth it? Does Michael Keaton save it? Was Supergirl as woke and terrible as the trailers made it out to be? The movie is somewhat of a mess. It it's pretty much an hour of two Barry Allens before we get to Keating and the younger Barry, who I think he says he's 18 or 19. It's just irritating. And he's meant to be irritating, but he's irritating. And if you're not particularly fond of Ezra Miller, you're going to be spending a movie with not one but two of him. Does Keating save this movie? Sadly, no. He's great. He's Batman, come on. And it's great to see him. But there's surprisingly not enough of him, which would probably surprise people, especially when you're watching the promotional stuff that it was all Batman. But he's not really in there all that much. And someone who's in it even less than him, who is quite heavily promoted, is Supergirl, Sasha Calais. Is she woke? Is she as terrible as the trailers made it out to be, with that scream of "what did you do" and stuff? No, she's not woke. There's actually no wokeness in this movie, and she was actually quite decent. I don't know how they managed to put trailers together that made her look terrible, because she was actually decent. Like, she wasn't spectacular now or anything, but she was decent. Oh, and the girl from the Snyder Cut Justice League who played Ira West is back in this, and she's terrible. She is hands down terrible, and there is no chemistry between her and Ezra Miller. Not that there's much chemistry between Ezra Miller and anyone. Some of the jokes work, a lot of them don't, and it's like constant. It's just a bit goofy, I think would be the best way to explain it, and it's strange. Overall, out of 10, I'd probably give, oh, by the way, the CGI, you've probably seen all the images, the trailers, everything else. Did they fix it? No, it is horrendous. It's not like, it makes some of the latest MCU stuff look decent. It is dog shit. And now the director's out there saying, oh, it was meant to look bad. There's no way it was meant to look that bad. The cameos, all of them are CG, look bad. So yeah, what would I score this? I would probably give it about a 3.5 or 4 out of 10. And that's purely for Affleck's Batman and Keaton's Batman. Because really there's just nothing else, really. The Supergirl is, she's okay. She's fine. As I said, she wasn't as terrible as the trailers made out. But let's get into some of the spoilers, because I think we kind of have to. So, with that, I'm just going to get into the cameos and stuff. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, we got the cameos, and all the cameos are CGI. And quite offensive, to be honest with you. Like, it's gonna piss so many people off. So the first person we see, and the reason that it's happening is all these different universes are coming crashing into this one. The first cameo, well, the real first cameo in the movie that's not part of that Speed Force crap, is Wonder Woman, who saves Batman. He's fallen off a bridge, chasing a guy, and she uses the lasso of truth to pull him up, and that meant to lead to some jokes, and the joke's not particularly funny, and Ezra Miller's grabs it as well. His Barry Allen says about, he basically says he's a virgin, also not funny. But that's her scene. She's just there to say a saved isn't high, and that's the end of her. But then we get to where the worlds collide and all this. And the first person we see is, why am I blanking on his second name? George something or another. The very first guy who played Superman in the TV show. It's weird that they put him in there because not just is he dead, he died by jumping out a window believing that he was Superman. Yeah, kind of distasteful then to put him in there. Then it jumps to the original Flash from the original movie, and of course he played Barry Allen's father in the CW show. Sorry, but I can't remember the actor's name. But we see him in the original suit with the tin hat. And then we get what is probably the biggest, most disrespectful and really terrible choice to do. We get Christopher Reeve's Superman and Supergirl, the original Supergirl with him. What was that actress name? I want to say Diane something, but I don't think it's that. Can't think of her name. But yeah, Christopher Reeve shows up. Then, who does it go to after those two? Then we get a glimpse of Adam West, Batman. So far, out of the 4 cameos in this scene, 3 of the people they show you are dead in real life. Then it goes to the one that they said was in it even before the movie came out. Was the Nicolas Cage Superman. He's fighting a great big spider, and I don't know why they just didn't get Nicolas Cage. Why is he CG? I don't know. And by the way, the CG for all of these people, think how the Rock looked at the end of the Mummy 2 and how the Schwarzenegger T-800 looked in Salvation. They're that bad. And the Nick Cage one is the last one you see. So that's your hype for all of the cameos. They are garbage. They're not worth the price of admission, basically. You know, the Wonder Woman is the only one that's actually Wonder Woman. That actually is there. And then you're kind of after the whole Shazam scenario where it wasn't even Gal Gadot. You're sitting there going, well, is it actually her this time? Or it's so weird. But then there's 2 more cameos, but not in the Speed Force, when Barry goes back and changes things to go back so the mother would die, which was to, this is where the selfish stuff came that I was talking about in the non-spoiler part. He puts the can of tomatoes back. He has footage of his father at the store buying the tin of tomatoes, but he never looks up, so you don't see his face on the camera. So Barry changes where the tins are and he puts the tomatoes on the top shelf, so his father would have no choice but to look up, so he gets exonerated. And once he gets exonerated, Barry gets a call from Bruce, and he's like, it's so good to hear your voice. And he's like, yeah, I'm just pulling up now. The car door opens, and fucking George Clooney comes walking out. George Clooney's Batman. Well, Bruce Wayne. The funny thing is, Barry Allen's reaction is he literally goes, who the fuck is this guy? And the last cameo you get is in the mid-credit or post-credit scenes, which isn't worth your time. It's Aquaman. The two of them are in a bar and Aquaman's drunk as shit. And that's where the movie ends. Oh, when Barry discovers that he can travel back in time, you get to see horrible CG versions of people, even Supergirl and stuff. You get one image of Henry Cavill. It's fully digital, it's fully CG, it's not really him. He's not moving, he's not talking, nothing. It's just the scene of him in Justice League when they bring him back from the dead. So it's just him with his arm stretched out like he's punching when he punched Barry. And then you see Aquaman and then one of them, stuff like that. So that's all the cameos and stuff. So there is no actual Henry Cavill in this movie, and Zod confirms that he found baby Kal-El and killed him. Batman and Supergirl both die. Yes, Michael Keaton's Batman dies twice, and Supergirl's dies a bunch of times. And the reason they die a bunch of times is because, like, you see what I mean by she dies a bunch of times, but Batman dies twice, is you see him die twice and you see her dying a bunch of times. When younger Barry keeps trying to go back in time, no matter how many times they do it, they were always doomed to fail to Zod. They can't beat Zod, which is the other thing where the trailer makes it look like, oh, it's going to be Supergirl gone woke and just easily defeats Zod. No, they can't actually defeat him, and they keep losing. That was all of Zod's stuff. Everything with Zod, basically, you see in the trailer as well. He's barely in it, and he looks like he couldn't have been arsed to be in it to be as well. I don't think there's anything else really to spoil. Some of the jokes are funny. There's one that I did laugh out loud, is when Barry and, well, the two Barrys are in the Batwing and they're both suited up when Batman's going to drop them out onto the battlefield. Of course, younger Barry's suit is one of Batman's old suits that he just spray painted, and he tries to put the mask on. He turns around, it's all crooked and fucked. It was funny, and there's one or two other funny parts, but overall it's a very messy kind of movie, and you can see and really tell where they were chopping and changing things. And like the stuff with Michael Keaton's Batman, where like he dies and stuff, until you're assuming until Barry changes. You ask the question, how the hell then was he ever going to end up in Batgirl? It made no sense. And that's the other thing with this movie. It does not set up the future DCU, nor does it kind of remove all of this stuff. It's just the ending's very... And if you remember, the pictures of Michael Keaton, the very first pictures that came out of him on set was him in a suit out in the street. That's because the scene of George Clooney at the end, that was actually meant to be Keaton. And then the original post-credit scene was meant to be Ben Affleck's Batman and Henry Cavill's Superman talking with Barry, asking him what did he do. They filmed Cavill for this movie and then they took him out. Affleck, if you remember, was meant to die in the movie. Then he wasn't going to die. He was meant to be in the end, and he's not in the end. So yeah, it's very messy. So again, about 3.5, maybe 4, and that's purely for Batman's. But other than that, yeah, you'd probably just be better off waiting. It's not really worth your money, especially just to see a bunch of weird CGI'd dead actors for a few seconds. Yeah. Anyway, that's the review. If you want to see it, go see it. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. I'm not going to tell you can't. I don't think it's an absolutely terrible movie, but it's another very meh. Still probably better than most things anyway that Marvel have put out. That's saying something. Anyway, I'll leave it there for that one. So, cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.